came up with an idea for the Ramadan experience, which hasn't happened yet.
Last year.
So I had to scan my brains and think of something else that was more something meaningful from my culture and my personal experiences. And it got me thinking actually to people's perceptions about Britain and British food. Often it's like a very bad perception. I think I said it's the smallest book in the world is the book of British cooking. And smallest book of good British cooking, maybe. So as you may discover, there are lots of other recipes. And like people have in their mind things about roast beef, fish and chips. But there are lots of other recipes which my grandparents would cook, my mother would cook, and things which going back generations people had had. And I had a real sort of when I was growing up trying these different recipes cooked by my grandmother or by my mother, and a real connection back to this is how their mothers did and how their grandmothers cooked this type of food. And in each of the households in my family, in my parents' house, in my maternal grandmother's house, in my paternal grandmother's house, there was always this book. And if you go into any British household, there's particularly, maybe not the younger generations, but anyone over the age of about 50, you'll find a copy of this book. And it's called Mrs. Beaton's Cookery and Household Management. And basically it explains about how running a household, but the majority is recipes, British traditional recipes that ordinary families would cook and they would have. And so my grandfather was a professional chef. I've grown up with like all sorts of different varieties of cooking, but for sort of basic ordinary foods that we'd eat on a regular basis, it would be things from this book. And as you can see, I have my own copy, and I refer to it occasionally. Any classic dish, this is what I would refer to. And this evening, I've picked some things from here, particularly things that my mother would make, my maternal grandmother would make when I was a child and growing up. And I'll tell you some more about them as we have the different foods. But the things that really bring back to me memories of my childhood and growing up, and seeing this book on the corner of the other end of the shelf in the kitchen, the bookshelf in the kitchen.
So it's interesting, when the guys came in, actually they were just admiring the paintings, and they could sense there is some sort of like a Middle Eastern touch in it. So yeah, it would be nice also to share with us that bit of you, because you've been living here like a couple of years, but there's a bit of influence about this region and the culture in this region. You know, you're not just British and period.
No.
There's much more to it, right?
Yeah, and it's always been something where like taking in new experiences of different countries and cultures I've been to. My paternal grandmother, actually her best friend was Egyptian, and she used to travel to Egypt, this is years ago, but every year, and she would come back and tell me stories about going to the markets in Alexandria and Cairo, and the smells and the different spices and ingredients. And she had some pictures in her living room of like boats on the Nile, and so I was growing up with this fascination with the Middle East, and from the stories that she would tell me about her trips there, and it's something that's always been something I found very interesting. So finally now getting to live in the Middle East, and I've been in Dubai for coming up for 4 years, and it's a region I find fascinating, and it's very something close to my heart, really. I haven't learned Arabic yet, so I attempted a couple of times to learn some words, but
struggling.
Even Arabic speakers are struggling too.
It's challenging. It's quite challenging for non-Arabic people to speak Arabic.
Yeah, the thing it's like we're not all like we didn't all of us came from the same place, like in different countries in the Arab world, like. Egyptian people, they have certain words, like it's different slang, different words, different dialects. Yes. So for example, even from the same Arab word, we for example, as Jordanians, we can't understand the Moroccans. Like
no one can understand the Moroccans.
Like in some cases, we have like totally different words. It's not like English.
But actually, the Jordanian also, people of the Bedouins, they have a very thick accent.
Yeah, so it's different from a country
One
to
country to another. Yeah, I agree.
So it could be the reason why you find the Arabic language is hard somehow. But I mean, like we all share the formal Arabic language, where it's the one we use on like formal presentations or newspapers like this. So
the Fusha, we call it the Fusha,
Yeah.
but it's still challenging.
But still, there is
But even for them to learn,
the
it's-
common tongue.
it's the common language that everyone use.
Yeah.
So if you aim to learn a language, it could be like simpler for you.
Yes.
At least something
Learn
that you
this.
can learn, which everyone understands.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So, يعني كمان out of respect, because we also participate in the experience, we would like also to share our stories of how we relate to the traditions of our families and our past. So I can go next, but I would love to give you guys the space, and then maybe I can come and share my. Katie would like to share.
Yeah.
Would you have to go next, or?
I can go next. So what was interesting for me is thinking about this experience and the traditional foods that we're having. It really took me back to my childhood, because now it's fashionable in the UK to cook Thai food, Italian food, Lebanese food. People are not really interested in the old recipes, but these are the ones that my grandmother used to cook, and also my mother. And it has this real sense, when you taste something, it takes you right back to your childhood. So that's interesting for me.
Maybe the kind of foods that when you go on leave to your country, like when you just go on, like when you have a vacation and you go to your country, this is the kind of food that you'd like to have, that you love your mother to cook for you when you just visit your country.
Yeah.
Because when you go to your country, you don't miss burgers and like Italian food. You just want to taste again the food that you miss while living abroad.
Familiarity, the ones that you have familiarity with.
So, for example, in my case, when I just go and visit my mom, like when I visit my country, obviously my mom, so I just give her a list of the dishes I miss, the dishes that I can't find in Dubai. So please, mom, when I come to Jordan, just please cook this and this for me. Be ready, prepared.
The mansaf and the...
Yeah, exactly. So you have that.
So for the family traditions, they're not limited to the food and the cooking. When we talk about the past of the family, there might be, common attributes to the family you feel like you're aligned with, but then there's a bit where you feel like you deviate from it. Like there's something very like intrinsic about your identity as individual. So maybe I could go next, just like give an example of what I'm referring to. So I'm coming from a big family. I have 7 siblings. I'm the second youngest, and I feel like war has played a big part of who we are. So I experienced war at the age of 7, which is basically the Gulf War, and because of that, my parents decided to go back to their hometown in Palestine. So, war takes away everything from you, challenges you in who you are. It takes the materials, and it takes also your confidence in knowing about life. It always occurred to me, would we grow up being more materialistic because we experienced our parents losing everything in a blink of an eye? Or would we be conscious enough as a family to engage with that pain in a way that, no, my significance does not come from the materials, because I know that they come and go, they could go in a blink of eye. So I'm much more than me owning some stuff that could go in a blink of eye. So alhamdulillah, I would say that I share this with my siblings. Because they've gone through pain, they relate to pain. So they always instantly feel they want to give, so I like this about them, and I would, I like the idea that I'm aligned with this common attribute. Me deviating from the family, I grew up always thinking there's something very interesting about the intelligence within each one of us, about the knowing, this knowledge reservoir within each one of us. I always have this interest to go and explore it. This gives me confidence, like I get to know Katie. I always give her the trust, I look at you as a human. I don't see like a British lady coming to Dubai. I see a human in front of me, and I engage with her in that sense. In a way, she opens up, and I get to that knowledge reservoir within her. So I feel like this feeds me at all levels, and I feel like okay, I can get more intelligent by just opening up to people and getting to know them and what they stand for in life. And I feel like this is something maybe very unique about me. I don't see it in in my other siblings. Of course, they have their own kind of intelligence, but I feel like this is the way I can relate to my family and the traditions in a way that has something to do with the experiences we have gone through, not necessarily in the traditional way we talk about traditions. So this is, I would say, the way I was thinking about it coming to the experience today. This is the way I would relate to my family. Yeah, so this is much more my story in relation to this.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and you, Farzan.
Yeah, I mean,
because you've been asking me also, what should I share? Just be yourself.
No, for sure.
Expert.
I was actually thinking about, because, and thank you for bringing attention to the other aspect of like how you can be different from your tradition, right? There's always that as well. So I come from Karachi. I grew up in Karachi. I actually lived there until 3 years ago. So most of my life I lived there. I used to live, growing up, I'm the eldest of 5. So the first 5 years I was the only child, and we used to live in a joint family system where I used to have my cousins as well in the big bungalow that we used to have. So that was quite great. We used to have in the backyard custard apple tree and another fruit called shetut. I don't know what it's called. It's like a berry. It's very sweet. So I mean, we used to have that used to be great, going out with the cousins and Ninja Turtles and everything. Yeah, that used to be the early 90s phase. But I would say my dad was into business. He has always have had a jewelry retail business, and and retail for me, like growing up, I would go visit the shop as the customers would come, and you sit behind a counter, sort of do personal selling and dealing, work with artifacts, work in production as well. And before that, my grandfather used to work in some gold work on clothing, which used to be a thing back in the day. Now, not so much. People don't want to put expensive gold on their clothes so much anymore. So he used to have a distribution all over Pakistan, across the country, and then my dad started his own thing on his own. But then as I got exposed more to education, and then just never got into that entrepreneurial thing, and my dad got into it super early. At the age of 19, he set up a shop with the capital. If I think of it, I was barely ready. I was in college and doing my education. So I had, in a way, a privilege to engage in more wider horizons. Didn't have the pressure to provide to anyone. So get inspired by history or literature, debating, schooling activities, all of that. I grew more individualistic. So as I think I do have fair deal of differences in my own strong identity. So my society or my parents might feel like to be more collectivist, doing things more together. And all my cousins and uncles, mostly, definitely my uncles are entrepreneurs doing their own enterprise. But I don't relate to that so much anymore. It feels very restrictive to me to be, especially in something like retail. So I feel like, and in many other instances as well, I feel I've evolved to be more individualistic and with my own liberties than being as collectivist as the rest of the society would be. But there's a balance. Like there are moments when you realize the importance of having your rooted community and your family, which could be, for most people it tends to be family, for some people it tends to be friends, for some people it's nothing. Like, there are people who are nomadic, who are just moving from one place to another, and they feel they can belong anywhere. I feel like for a long time, for some time, especially when I was moving and traveling, I grew accustomed to that concept, especially during solo travels, that you can go and make friends and belong anywhere, so you don't really need to have your own. But this is something I reflect on these days, that perhaps at some point you do need. The world is not as yet as ready to accept you into their own. There will be, most people would still be a bit closed out and skeptical. So you gotta have it's good for you on an individual level to have your own rooted community as well, whether that's back home or friends in new place.
I'm just curious, sorry for interrupting you, how it was perceived by your community. I mean, your uncles and your parents, that you want to
Take a different
like spring off, just to go on your own.
I think even when I was doing my first few years of job, my dad was skeptical as to how much money you would make. There are limits to what you can do in a business. You can multiply it multifold, and for them it was still, for my dad was still, even though he believed in education and thankfully invested in it, but it was still a matter of that there are limits to how much money you can make. And the benchmark was that how much money you make is the prime factor as an entrepreneur. But alhamdulillah, things work out, and then you grow on the ladder, and then you work well. I mean, they've been fairly supportive. As long as you're doing good, they don't mind that you're not. And I have, alhamdulillah, my younger siblings who are supporting him in the family business, so it works out for me.
They're taking the burden away from you.
And they're happy to do it.
Yeah, interesting. Because I do have also a few friends in Palestine. They also, they're coming from certain families, influential families, where there's this family business. And I know, like, guys, really, you see them, they're macho, they're tough. And then when it comes to them taking a tiny decision of buying a car, they have to refer to their parents, because they can't actually take from that big pot, which belongs to everyone in the family. You have to go through a certain process, give the blessings, but it's interesting to see someone who wants to challenge that in a conservative. I mean, in Pakistan, at the end of the day, it has kind of a conservative culture where celebrates family and coming together. It's not easy to.
It's not very individualistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Thank you so much, Rizan. That leaves us with you guys. It's been through it a few times.
No, it's just the question is very challenging for me, because what does it mean? I mean, when I ask myself about what does it mean to get link or attached to your family traditions, we didn't have these traditions in the family.
Which is a link on its own.
or a link. I mean, for me, your grandmother was admired Egypt. Right,
yes, yeah.
and you live in the Middle East. My experience is different. I'm Egyptian. I went to London. I lived there for a few years. So this is totally different situation. So I traveled because I wanted to live alone, and I wanted to discover myself. And when you live alone, you have to discover who you are, what's your identity, what makes you attached to this or that ideology or to your family and all of that. And yeah, the food is it's a very important part of it. But for me, I mean, as an example, before I moved to London, I hate tomatoes. I really hate tomatoes. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I started to eat tomatoes when I was in
the UK.
Yeah,
maybe they cook it in a different way.
I think because my mother was always saying, "Why you hate the tomato? Tomato is very good."
Yeah, she was.
So when I started to eat the tomato, it makes me feel like attached to home or attached to the house.
Okay.
So I usually go to the restaurant in the university and ask him for the salad, and he didn't put the tomato. And suddenly I found myself asking him, "What is the tomato? You cannot put the salad."
Give me my tomato.
And he said, "It's extra money." And I said, I don't care, put a tomato.
Yeah.
And the guy like gets used to me going to him and ask for the extra tomato. So this is very small example. I mean, I will not talk about the food, but this is very small example
Yeah.
about how the food can makes you feel home. The main reason of traveling was to discover the world. London is a very big city, and it's like the whole globe is living to you. So my experience was to meet people from all over the world in London. I met French, Polish, all nationalities of Europe, North America, Nigerian, Jamaican, and it gave me that sense that I cannot put myself in being from Egypt or linked to the traditions of Egypt or the Middle East. I don't know what you call it. Because the world is so big, and every people, every tribe, every culture has their own way of think and their own experience, and you need to discover it and get deep in each culture because you will learn something new. And that makes me like not the same person I used to be when I traveled for the first time. And this is not something I learned by myself because my family lived abroad. So they lived like for more than 8 years in Libya. My father was working there as a doctor. And then he moved to Saudi Arabia. But in Libya, in 1980s, living in Libya in 1980s under Gaddafi rule, that wasn't something easy. Because first of all, the nature of Libya is it's the mountains, no internet, no TV, or if you have a TV, you only watch Libyan TV channel, so you only see songs or programs about Gaddafi and the revolution and the great projects. So the only thing that allowed my mother to see the world was to watch the Tunisian channel or Italian channel only in the summer because of the weather, and the weather is very because it's mountains.
Wow, it's very hard.
Yeah, I didn't live this, but my mother was
So
insisting.
summertime they would have like good reception.
Yeah,
Okay.
But living as Egyptians in Libya was very challenging for her. So she was always trying to
This is our baking.
to remind my sisters that they are Egyptians and they live like Egyptians, to cook Egyptian food, to watch Egyptian films at a time where Libya and Egypt were facing political crisis. So I learned this from her. I think this is like something like involuntary when I moved to London. So it was about more lifestyle. So she was so organized. So I was always keen to be organized in my life, taking care of myself, doing the laundry by myself, taking care of my health, doing sports, which is something I didn't used to do in Egypt, but she was always advising me of doing this. So when I started to move to live by myself, I started to remember her advices. I started to apply to my life. So this is something, I think it's something different way to get attached to your family. But for the identity, I don't always feel like I'm Egyptian, like, because there is the traditions, but not all the traditions I'm attached to it or I like it. And instead, I like to know more about. I prefer to stay or to live or to meet new people from different cultures that I don't know anything about it, because it gives me the chance to know more about the universe and about their experiences in life. And this is always something that my mother was always motivating me to do, because when I was a kid, I was asking too much questions about everything.
She's like, you go and explore your own. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, for the food, for example, I was my sisters. They are not keen in food at all. I was the one who go to the kitchen watching her while she's cooking, or asking her about the history, or asking her about politics, and she was like, she was answering my questions. But she was at some time she said, "This is too much. Stop it."
Okay.
But she was always motivating me, like, if you want something, if you want to know something, go behind it.
So you're saying that the family traditions become more present when you go away from the family, when you are on your own.
I was just thinking the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, for me it's definitely like that. Like, my family are not so interested in travel as me. Like, I was always looking out, and I always wanted to explore the bigger world. But then once I'm away from home, it's those traditions and the food from home and the habits we're used to that become more important, because it's the one thing that links you to your home. Like, I'm not really one of the English people that drink tea at 4 o'clock every day. But when I went to live in France as part of my studies, I suddenly felt like it was my duty as an English person or something like this. I felt like it was something that reminded me of being at home, and it was comforting for me. So the habit of drinking tea in the afternoon started actually when I lived in France.
And I think it's another tradition that suited you back then. It's the meaning of it to you. We always feel like we need to have like a place or something that we refer to, like something that we're anchored to. It's like a physical place, or it could be a simple tradition, or so it's interesting.
I think also the traditions is not something permanent, because when you travel. I travel and I live like a few years outside Egypt, and then when I come to visit, I discover new traditions in the society. I was like, guys, when did you start to do this? So traditions is a very
it's not static.
Not static, yeah.
So it's like changes and evolves.
Yeah.
People, you acquire new knowledge, start doing things a different way, and then future generations will adopt that, but they don't know where it came from. That you discovered it from some other place.
And in the UK especially, we have so many different influences from around the world. Like, the most popular British dish in Britain is an Indian dish. And so, yeah, we take a lot from the people who come to live there as well.
Actually, Indian food is the traditional food in
It is.
You know that the first curry shop in UK was 150 years before the first fish and chips.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of great traditions.
Which makes it very challenging for us to define what does it mean to be. Because sometimes, when I people ask me first question, what's your name, and then where you're coming from, especially in Dubai.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Sorry.
I don't want to answer this question. It's not because I don't take pride.
Like, where are you from?
Yeah, I just want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me for who I am. I don't want the previous experiences to project themselves and then limit this human interaction.
There's so much more to us.
Yeah, what does it mean to be Pakistani? Pakistan has so many people coming from different communities. What does it mean to be Palestinian? We have Bedouin communities, we have agricultural communities, and we have big cities. He's coming, originally, he's coming from Palestine. Maybe you're coming from Nablus city, or like a village next to Nablus. Nablus city. Literally, it's half an hour away from my village. The way we speak, the dialects are different.
Yes.
Traditions in relation to food and other stuff are different. Wedding and other stuff are different. They are the guardians of Kunafa.
Oh, okay. You're my friend.
Last time, there was Zaha Experience he's been to. The theme for the story telling was to share a story of a stereotype that has failed to define who you are. So I share two stories. One of them happened in the UK. People would ask you, we're coming from Palestine. Oh, how does it feel to live in Palestine? What if I don't want to talk about occupation? I'm running away from it, and then I go abroad and people face me with the fact, okay, how does it feel to live on
Because the thing could be...
I don't want to talk about occupation. Maybe I want to talk about our appetite for life. Maybe I want to talk about other things. Okay? And then when I went back to Palestine, when I told you the story, I was in a shop in the city, Nablus, and a lady came to me, and she's like, what's your name? Because there's a thing in Palestine where people get to know who you are, where coming from the family name. So I said Asma. She didn't like it. And Asma, what's your family name? I said Ahmed. Ahmed is a very common name. She didn't like it either. So she's like, where are you from? I said, I'm from this village. I mentioned the name of the village. Like, and what do you do? It's like, I'm not working. Really? You seem to be smart. Why are you not working? Because I just came back. I just came back from the UK. UK, what you were doing there? I was like, I was doing my masters. Really? Do peasants, because I'm coming from an agricultural community, do farmers send their daughters to study abroad? I was like, yeah, they do. And she lives half an hour away, from my village, which means that we still have this general understanding about each other. This is what we're trying to challenge in Zaha.
Preconceptions about people.
Yeah, I mean, yes, farmers do invest in education. I mean, what's wrong with that? Them not like earning through a different activity, economic activity, doesn't make them less intellectual than other people. So that's my point.
Just I want to add that story.
Yeah, it's okay, of course. Please go ahead.
I joined a sports group. Recently.
Sports?
Yeah, like workouts. So we do like workout outdoor. And the coach, he's training us, but at the same time he's promoting some kind of values. And one of these values that we are all equals. And we don't ask each other during the training about where are we from,
what do you do,
or what we do, or what is the third? Nationalities, what we do, or the age.
So religion as well could be one of the when someone asks you like, what is your religion?
Or religion.
Yeah,
but
question.
what happened is he's trying to convince us to do this in our life, not only.
Bravo.
So
Amazing.
I started. It's happened by coincidence that I was in a cafe and the cashier was asking, where are you from? Just taking details. So I said I'm Egyptian, but she didn't hear it well. And suddenly I said I'm from planet Earth. And they laugh. And then I started to keep repeating in different situations. When someone asked me where am I from,
I'm a human.
I say I'm from planet Earth.
Yeah.
And he said, really? I said, yeah, my spaceship is waiting outside.
Spaceship.
Your specialty is?
My spaceship is waiting.
And it was my first time to see the girl or the guy in front of me get confused, because when he doesn't know where I am from, he
Yeah.
doesn't know what
He
to
doesn't
ask
know
me
how,
next.
yeah,
Yeah.
how to interact.
He doesn't
with
know
you.
which box to
Yeah.
put you in.
True.
And
Sure.
they are all were like as usual. They were I think I'm Indian, but they say your accent is different. You're not Indian. I was
Get
like,
very
yeah, I'm from
troubled.
planet Earth. I'm not Indian, and I don't eat curry because I don't eat spicy food. I was like, okay. So where are you from? I was like, planet Earth. Or when he said, are you Indian? I was like, no, this is subcontinent. I came from different planet.
There is this
And
thing.
they just get confused like this, and I started to play with their minds.
Yeah.
I could spend hours in gatherings playing with all the people's minds about where I'm from. So like, are you Iranian? I was like, not in this situation. No, it's very bad politically. Not today.
This is a very good thing actually when it comes, for example, to social media. When you go to
It's interesting, yeah. Give
well,
us
yeah, it's a very interesting actually insight about LinkedIn, because job interviews is all about your qualifications and what's inside your head. It's not about like where you came from or what your religion is. So when you compare Facebook, for example, to LinkedIn, on LinkedIn they don't mention like where you came, like where you're from or what is your religion. It's a very good thing actually, which makes us think like why did they remove it, or why they don't have it in their profiles. Like in your profile you can't
indicate.
yeah, you can't indicate. So it makes you as an interviewer, when you have like a vacancy in your company and you want to have that interview with the person, so it makes you just look at the important things that makes you hire him or not. Because for some people it's maybe automatically
We all
they
do.
just put you in that box, like
all do.
it pushes you back a little bit if you say like I'm from this country or I'm from this country or I am Muslim, for example, or I am Christian. So for some people it happens automatically without them intending to do that.
I think for some people it's a process they go through, so they want to go to something where they feel comfortable. So they want to put you into a box like, oh, you're from this country, you're this religion, you do this type of work. And then once they've gone through that process, they come to know the real you, then they get to know more detail about you, more background, and actually that becomes less relevant. But I think maybe it's just people's natural thing. They want to put people into a box, and then they'll start taking you out of the box bit by bit as they get to know you more.
It could be. I mean, when we had that experience about the people sharing stories about the stereotype and so on, there was a lady from Mauritius. Her mom is Singaporean of Yemeni roots. Very interesting background. And she's like, you know what?
She's not coming today.
No. On the contrary, she said, on the contrary of all of your stories, my instincts to ask people about where you're coming from and start to relate to them in a certain way is just a gesture of me reflecting my interest in their culture in general and bridging the gap. And so, and I always say there is no like definite knowledge. There are just, different varieties, and the more the better, So this is why it's not always a bad or a negative thing. It's just a thing, a way of relating to other people. So some people would do it because yes, it's easy to put them in a box and then accordingly you start interacting with them. Or it's maybe a way of showing interest that I know this and that about your culture. Maybe, so...
Yeah.
It's also quite an easy way to start a conversation. If you don't know somebody
it's
and you
awkward.
suddenly ask them, what are your feelings on tradition and your family? It's like, oh, why, it's a big question. So if you ask, so where are you from? How long have you been in Dubai? It's kind of an easy way to start getting to know them and they feel comfortable, and then you can continue and ask.
I have a question for you. You said your grandmother were visiting Egypt regularly.
Yes.
This is like 1920s, 1930s?
No, 1980s, 1990s.
Okay. So how your mother was admiring Egypt? I mean, she was bringing
my grandmother. Yeah,
she was bringing souvenirs, I guess.
So she had an Egyptian friend.
Okay.
And I can't remember how she met her. May have been in the UK or she lived in South Africa. So, her Egyptian friend travelled a lot around the world. So I don't know where they met, but they became really close friends. And then after that, she would go back and visit her in Egypt, and her Egyptian friend would come visit her. My grandmother in the UK.
Okay. So she was telling you a lot about Egypt.
Yeah.
Do you think when you come to the Middle East to live, was that a way of getting attached to your roots or your family?
Your Egyptian roots?
No.
I think it's.
I mean, you felt like it's like next home,
similar,
second home.
Similar. I mean, I think it was more that created in me an attraction to the Middle East, and something I wanted an interest I wanted to explore, and so. Moving to UAE is kind of almost the fulfillment of that. It's
I mean, it wouldn't be the same if your grandmother, for example, was admiring India or China or Vietnam, and then in that case you might have this link to Indo-China. Yeah. So it's like getting back to your or attached to your family makes you a little want to come to them. You feel like it's like your home. It's not a foreign land for you.
Yeah, it makes me think, even though my grandmother wasn't Egyptian or from the Middle East, it makes me think, part of the Middle East makes me think of my grandmother because of those memories I have of her and those stories she told me.
So what was the stories mostly about?
You want to see the eyes through the eyes of a British lady?
Yeah.
Because I had a situation like this. I was like, I think I was in New York and I met a guy. He was our guide. And after he finished his tour and everything, he asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm from Egypt. And he started to talk to me about his grandfather, who was in Egypt during the World War II, and how he was telling the stories about Cairo. This is by the World War II. So streets of Cairo, the Groby ice cream shop, and the Nile, Alexandria, and he was like. And he has all of these memories of his grandfather souvenirs in his house. So he was like, Egypt, oh my gosh, my grandfather, and it's very beautiful, and I visited Egypt. So it's really interesting to hear it again from you. I mean, yeah, mostly people in UK admire India, but see, Egypt is the second after India when it comes to admire. So, what was I mean, what is the most important thing that makes your grandmother like Egypt?
I think
Besides her
it's-
friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think the friendship was the main thing.
Okay.
But obviously, she enjoyed
Okay.
visiting Egypt. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gone back after the first
Yeah.
time. But seeing in Egypt, things that you've got the history with the pyramids
Okay.
and so on. But she did all that sort of tourist things. But actually, just the feel of the city. So her friend lived in Cairo, but she also went up to Alexandria, visited there, and I just remember her telling me about sort of visiting the markets. I don't know if it's a souk in Cairo or Alexandria, the same as here. But anyway, that seeing the going shopping with her friends in these traditional markets and. So
I
it's very-
feel
The
the smell
warmth.
of the market now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I didn't know what they would smell like, but when I was a child, I
They were
was
present
imagining
in
what
her
it's
stories.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. The warmth, I think, and the richness of the
That's the
culture.
market, yeah.
Because I have the same situation when my family tell stories about Libya. So because they lived there for a long time, and when they watch the news, they start to say, yeah, this place, yeah, we have a friend living there. They used to do this, and and involuntary, I start to do something that it's not common within the Egyptian. When I shake hand and leave someone, I tell him I'm sorry if I did anything like bothering you. And this is uncommon for the Egyptian. My mother was like, you know, Libyans are doing this.
And where did you pick that from?
I picked it from Marsa Matruh, so West Alexandria. It's all tribes, and they are all linked to the Libyans. So I went there for a summer break, and on the first day we had a fight with the owner. The owner was like a local man from Marsa Matruh.
Okay.
So after a few days, when we give him the place and leaving, he said, "I'm sorry." And I was like, that guy is crazy. We were almost going to kill each other. Now you're saying you're sorry. So I tell her I tell my mother the story, and she said, yeah, it's all this cost doing the same. The apologize. In her first time, she was like, what's wrong with you? What did you do to me? And then involuntarily, in the last 2 years, I started to do this. Not just I
Just
didn't
picked
plan.
it and
I just picked
became
it.
part of.
And my mother noticed, and I was like, are you Libyan now? What's
Are
wrong with you?
you becoming Libyan?
So I think it's the same. I mean, her when I'm talking about his grandmother and this getting attached to
Link,
Egypt,
yeah.
I think it's the same here. It's like this, like invisible attached to Libya, just because of the stories I keep
That
hearing
you
about
grew
Libya.
up to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. You wanted to say something, Farzan, before we move
I
to
was just
Iman?
remembering the market in Cairo, Al Khalil, or
I'm Alexander. I'm from Alexandria,
You're
so.
Do you remember?
Khalili,
But
yeah.
we
Khalili.
actually we have a famous market there, but we call it
Yeah.
Libya Market
Oh,
because it's a very
In
famous
the
market.
Alexandria.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I've been
interesting.
meaning to go to Alexandria.
Uh,
So
He likes it when people want to.
Sorry.
I'm saying he likes it when people want to go to Alexandria.
Yeah, of course.
Of
it's
course,
like
yeah,
a
of
beautiful
course.
city. Yeah.
So this leaves us with you, Imad, tonight.
He didn't
So-
talk.
So you want to
no,
Oh my gosh.
because you've been the shot.
My story could be a little bit different because I used to live in Jordan with my family for the past, like for 26 years. Then I took the decision to move to Dubai. So the years I spent with my family was just like any normal person, like who's like nothing very, very, very special about me being attached to my family. I used to love my father a lot, but I mean, I was like a young guy who wants just to spend most of the time with his friends outside the home. I used to work, I started to work when I was 18. So I mean, what I can tell is after the age of 18, everyone wants to spend more time with friends outside of home. But then like the point where I started to feel that I'm attached with my family when I leave, like when I left the when I left Jordan, when I left to work here. The thing is, my father used to be a mechanic, so I always wanted to work with him. But in our country, let's say in our region, like being a mechanic is not a very good thing that could earn you a very good amount of money that can make you build a really good family, to raise your kids like in a very good education. So he all what I remember is he used to always tell me that I want you to be better than me. I want you to go and explore the world. He used to travel when he used to be like at my age. But then he took the decision to, for example, he didn't go to university.
Yes.
So he started to work when he was age of 18 at this profession. So whenever I used to tell him like I want to work with you, although he had his own shop, but it's still not a very good thing in our country. So he always wanted us to like us as his kids to be better than him, to go to good schools, to go to good universities, to have the certificate and go explore the world and have a good jobs. So he used to push me and like to travel and to come to Dubai. So yeah, I remember when I first came to the UAE, I started to have that feeling that I miss my family. Because خلاص, you know that your life changed now. You're not going to be with your family as you used to be. So you start have that emotional
Attachment.
emotional attachment to your family. Like that phase finished. Now I'm in a different phase. Then you start to think like, what did you miss? If I just go back in time, maybe I can spend more time with them. So yeah, this is my story. But again, like when I go to Jordan, visit them, I spend time with them. I see like I say like I'm here now. Like I can
Make it up.
I can make it up exactly.
Yeah, but do you feel the same like now going there? Because we're just talking about how things evolve over time. Like you changed, okay, family tradition.
I try to gather with them as much as possible, to have more time with them. To like before I go on leave to visit them, I just think of the things that they used to tell me that they like. For example, they like me to take them out for dinner, for example.
Okay.
They like me to take them out to watch a movie. But they used to say those things. They used to mention those things when I used to live with them. But I didn't give it too much care when I used to live with them there. Because you think that you are spending too much time with them at home. You are listening to the same stories every day. You're listening to the same things every day. The relationship in general, it won't be like as emotional as when you travel, because they will miss you. They will treat you differently when you come to a visit. And then last year my father passed away, so that when everything changed. Because I'm in the middle. I'm between two, like my elder sister and a younger brother. So I barely remember that I used to spend time talking to my sister. I feel like she's my sister. Okay, I spend some time with you at home. Then خلاص, you have your own life. I have my life. My younger brother used to be like outside the home for most of the time. Then when my father passed away, I was here in Dubai. Then I had that feeling that I inherited his personality. Now I have to treat my family the same way that he used to treat them. I started to remember everything, every simple thing that he used to mention to me, because my father was one of those people who used to say the sentence, when I die you have to do this and this, when I die you have to do this and that. So when he used to mention those things, I wasn't like
paying attention
at all. But now, when that thing happened, I used to like a flashback came to me. خلاص, I remembered everything. Then I started to like noting down everything he used to mention to me, how he wants me to treat my mother after he passed away, how he wants me to take care of my younger brother, how he wants me to stay connected to the family because, for example, he had like a bigger family than mine. He had like 6 brothers with 5 sisters. So not all of them they were connected to each other. They used to have those small problems between the sensitivity, especially between their wives. So he used to mention that I don't want you to be like us. I want you to be better than us. Please, when I die, just have a good relationship with your brother. Take care of him. Always speak to your sister on phone. Don't ever disconnect with them. Always take care of your mother. You're gonna be like just instead of me when I. So that's the change, the big change that happened in my life. That makes me have my own story. So you always like remember what he used to say and just try to even like in my own life, like not in my relationship with my family. For example, the way I wear my clothes, like how I wear, like how I should pick my clothes, how I should, for example, treat my neighbors, because he was like very what do I say? He used to care a lot of to care a lot about our neighbors, for example, in the neighborhood. So whenever you see your neighbor, just help him, just do this and that. This is how you have to go. For example, when you have a job interview, you have to put on a suit and, you know, all those things that you don't give attention to, that you don't pay attention to when you live with them. But then when he passes away, you think that now you have to
continue
do
the
everything.
tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Now you have to take the traditions that he gave to you among the years, and you have just to apply them. To you even think of how the way that you want to raise your kids. You want it to be the same way that you were raised in your family. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, I'm thinking if you have joined Zaha Experience before your precious father really passed away, and you have shared the way you relate to the traditions, maybe
It could be
your story
much
would be very
different.
flat.
Yeah,
I go and
very
visit
different.
them, but then now how it evolved, and then maybe 5 years from now, it will evolve into something.
Maybe when
Very
I have kids.
interesting, yeah. So subhanallah, it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that very sentimental. I really appreciate and I like that you have opened up. I really appreciate it a lot. It means a lot.
Generally, I'm an open person. I'd like to share stories.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak, because I don't think that there's something that's worth hiding.
Yeah, and nothing to be
This is
shy away
life. This is
from.
like
True.
each one of us have their own stories.
True.
So why not to?
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of who you are. I mean, all of us opened up tonight. So, of course.
Did you hear me when I said this house looks like my house in Alexandria? When I said this?
No, I heard you saying.
Okay, because this carpet is in my house.
This is very very common. Like when it
Yes,
comes to
the
Arabic,
pattern.
Yeah,
We
but
got
has
it in
the
Sharjah.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think the one we have in Alexandria was made in Egypt, so I just get in my mind. I was like, this carpet doesn't look like. Is that the one we have in our house?
You've time traveled to a level.
Yeah, I have the same feeling when I go to.
Taking your journey.
I have the same feeling when I go to Shakespeare and Company. This
Okay,
place.
yeah.
It has that feeling, the old place.
Shakespeare and Co?
The grandmother's place.
Yeah, but
They do
Shakespeare
this.
and Co. They do this design. I mean, it's
Yeah, so it gives
it's a
you
little
that-
bit fancy and it's not real. I think so. I mean, this book is real, for example,
Yeah.
because in my house in Alexandria we have something like a very big book like this about food. But when he started to talk about the foods, especially in the British food, I didn't have a chance to eat, to have a lunch or a dinner inside a British house. Only once I went to spend the Easter in 2014 with a family in Cornwall.
Okay.
So they invited me to have the Easter brunch. You call it Easter lunch.
Easter lunch.
Yeah, with their daughter's husband family, and they were doing lots of food and beef and shit. So it was like this. It was my first time to have this like homemade food because you have in London it's all fish and chips and
Yes.
chicken like fried chicken KFC or kebab or. I was like, these guys don't eat any normal food like us.
Just in London, the fried
Yeah,
chicken.
and then someone said, by the way, there is no English in London. They are all. That's why you were eating this. So they and then they invited me to eat in a homemade restaurant, and they presented vegetables. I was like, you're eating vegetables with us, like us. So yeah, I think I would have a copy of this book before I leave.
So what is the traditional dish in your country?
So we're going to try some this evening.
Yeah.
So probably the roast is the best known one. It's like a very traditional dish, but I mean you wouldn't have a roast all the time. It'd be something like not even every week. I think like Sunday.
Normally on Sundays,
Okay.
the family will get together. I mean, this is a massive generalization.
Yeah.
I mean, this is in Dubai. Everybody's doing all of us doing roast beef on Sundays or Saturdays.
But my family definitely, maybe not now. All the kids have left home, not so much. But when we were younger, they would invite one other family. We would all sit together for Sunday lunch. We'd be at the table for a few hours. My mum would cook a whole piece of meat, like either a roast chicken or a roast beef or roast lamb or roast pork sometimes. And it was a real occasion to get together. And it was more formal than a normal day. Like we would sometimes wear smarter clothes and we would maybe use the different plates, the nicer ones.
Yeah.
And like Sunday is a day where if a family getting together to have a roast.
So you guys were which part in England were from?
The north.
Not the south.
Okay. So south. This is where in south?
In Surrey,
Sorry. Okay.
but actually my parents are originally from the north as well.
Okay.
So this is York or Lake District?
No, you're close to the Lake District.
I grew up close to the Lake District
Okay.
in Cumbria, and my parents now live in Northumberland.
Okay.
So similar,
This
further
is
east.
nice. I went to both York and Lake District. It's really nice.
So yeah, now we'll move to the second component where Lloyd is
I'll
going to
talk
share with
to you
us more, about his personal culture by
Yeah.
sharing certain dishes and the meaning of them for him.
So if I bring your glasses through and we'll go and
Yeah.
try some. In the UK, it probably is much less formal than it seems to people maybe from outside. So if you go to like a British household, you'll see like, it's all this different cutlery, it's all arranged in these different specific ways, and it seems quite formal. And yes, it is formal, but to us, it doesn't seem formal. It's just
Because it's a habit.
it's just
a
a
habit.
habit of
But it goes like to very deep details. For example, the way they put the plate. So if you can just hold
Yes.
it this way, so you can read like what's written on the bottom of the plate.
I feel like you're more traditional. I don't know if this is because you lived abroad, so you became like taking the more traditional habits.
Both our families are quite
Yeah.
traditional.
And we both love the history and traditions, so for us, it's really fun to do these traditional things and to arrange the table like our grandparents used to do it. For some people, I was thinking this earlier, we were talking how traditions develop, but also traditions can mean different things to different people. So for us, we really love all the tradition and the historical things. I mean, you can see by some of the pictures we have.
Gorgeous.
This is
historical
which
things.
portrait?
This
Is it for battle in Scotland or which battle?
It's like in 1745.
This is the battle of Cromwell against the Scottish.
No, it was like there was like a civil war in the UK.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Cromwell War, right?
Oh no, afterwards. This like it's quite a long story. This is history. From like the 1740s, and we had two rival royal families,
Yeah.
and then one was they brought in some German royal family to rule the country, and they kicked out the existing ones. They went to Italy, And then the ones that were in exile in Italy were trying to always become the monarchs again. So this is in the last time they attempted, and they sent the crown prince to Scotland to lead a rising to try and claim back the throne for the exiled royal family.
So this is after Cromwell death.
After Cromwell, yeah, it was about 100 years after Cromwell.
Yeah, I was thinking how like for us the traditions are really fun and really interesting, but for some people could find it very claustrophobic and controlling to have to do things in a certain way. I like.
But you guys enjoy it, apparently. Yeah. There's a joy and interesting.
Would you like help?
No, that's fine. That's,
How are we gonna do this?
but it's
Do you want to arrange them? I'll bring them.
yeah. Oh, it's some lemons as well.
Okay.
There's one lemon in the bottom of the fridge shop.
I like
So
this
it-
one too.
Oh,
From
this-
India?
From India, yeah. I was saying about the cutlery. So it's for us, it's not a very formal thing, but there is the rule we have is like start from the outside, and then you work your way in. So you'll see for this the first one we've got toast, and I changed the menu so it's actually shrimp in. It's called potted shrimp. It's a very traditional British dish to have, which you'd have with toast and lemon. So you just use the knife for that. And,
This one, the outer.
It's a bottom
Yeah.
knife.
yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
So, oh, Casey, have you got the lemons?
Yeah.
There's some in the
Very interesting house, huh?
Very interesting. I've watched like a full documentary about the way that they prepare the table and everything. It makes you feel like we're way different than them.
This is mushroom.
No, this is shrimps and butter.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Shrimp and butter.
We call it potted shrimp. So there's an area in the west coast of England, kind of. Is it Morecambe Bay where they have the
Yeah,
shrimps?
that's Morecambe
Yeah.
Bay.
And they have a lot of shrimps there, and so this dish is from that area.
Okay, interesting.
This is West England?
West, yeah. The west, so like the Irish Sea.
Oh, okay.
Morecambe Bay is near Lancaster, right?
Yeah,
It's very
it's
nice.
Lancashire.
Yeah.
Can I take a picture?
Yeah, you can put it somewhere.
Can I?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the roast beef is still hot.
So, please take a slice of
Slice,
lemon.
thank you.
I don't know if you went to Cornwall before. Because
I
they,
have, yeah.
They have
As-
this pie, the made a pie with the fish.
Yes.
Never try.
You can
Didn't have a chance to try.
I can sit on.
Wherever you want.
How many are we?
That's
Yeah.
So you cook this
Good.
first, then you put it in the fridge.
Yes,
You
yeah,
cook
that's
first, then you
right,
put
yeah.
So yeah.
That's right. No, that's all, Casey.
That one.
No.
We're good. We have it.
Confused about how many people.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm still like,
Yeah.
discovering things about
Casey wants
Britain
to.
even
Yeah.
after I left.
I may.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, tell us about this.
Yeah, so it's made with shrimp and butter. So you heat the butter slowly over a pan and add some like cloves or mace, the spices in there to bring some flavour to it. At the same time, you cook the shrimp separately and cook the shrimp with a lot of nutmeg or some cayenne pepper, and then mix the two together and then put them into these small ramekins
Mm.
when it's cooled down into the fridge and then left to chill.
Interesting.
And what are these?
Mustard.
that's
the-
that's
the-
that's the
the-
next one.
Yeah.
This is mustard, I guess.
So
This
you
is
don't
mustard,
use
and this
And
is.
we're keen. I
Mustard.
mean, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, mustard also.
The kind of memories it brings.
Yeah, so
What's-
my this particular dish,
Yes.
my family's both my father's side and my mother's side are like quite close to the coastline. On my father's side, he grew up in South Africa actually, but his father is from Lancashire in Liverpool, and so there's a lot of seafood and these type of dishes. And then my grandmother on my mum's side is in East Yorkshire, so they have a lot of fresh seafood and things. So this is a type of dish that they would have eaten quite regularly.
They still make it.
Not anymore. It's no longer with us.
Just
But,
trying to do the same that you did.
Yeah,
Because it's
It's a
the
bit of
first
a-
time for me to
There
do
is
something like
something
this and
always
trying to
about
follow
living
your
beside the sea.
your steps.
When you live beside the sea, you get used to the smell and the sea. It always makes you feel home,
No, of course.
and you have this special appreciation for seafood.
This dish has special memories for me because it's my dad's favourite thing.
Yeah.
So whenever it was his birthday or a special occasion, or if my mum was feeling especially nice,
She
there was a place where I grew up was not too far from where a lot of the shrimps come from in England. And sometimes my mum would go to a special shop where they had them fresh from Morecambe Bay. And my dad would always be so happy.
That's great.
I always feel so happy when I go to a seafood restaurant or when I go to the market
That's seafood.
to buy fish.
It's delicious, by the way.
It's really
It's always good to taste something new that you've never. If you love food, like for me as a person, because I worked in a multinational agency,
yes.
so I always work with people from different cultures. So whenever they cook something at home and they bring it with them, I'd like to taste it every time. I'd like to hear the story, what are the ingredients, because most of the time we're using the same ingredients, but the way that we cook it is
The
different.
mix
Very
and,
different.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the idea of having seasoned rice and with chicken or lamb, it's very common across the Middle East. But then if you go to Pakistan, that
They
the taste
mix
is
it up
different.
entirely.
Yeah, and Iran or Iraq or
Is it the same basic ingredients but such a diversity?
Yeah. And I was just sharing today the story of there's this Palestinian dish. It's called fatta. Fatta means shredded bread, and basically it comes in layers. So you have a layer of rice or bread, then yogurt or sesame paste, tahina, then chicken or meat, then you have you garnish it with chopped parsley and fried nuts. And I have 7 siblings, 6 of them are great cooks, okay? If you come to each one of them and tell them cook, fatta for me, you'll have 7 different versions of fatta.
For sure. Yeah.
So I always say the meaning, and if you take this tiny ingredient or aspect of the culture, which is basically a dish, it has different meanings to people coming from the same family, have grown up in the same environment. So you can scale this diversity even to the big parts of the culture as well. So
You have a special occasion to eat this fata? Or
no, we just eat it whenever. Yeah.
Mostly Fridays.
Yeah, but in Egypt, because in Egypt fata had to do with the Eid.
No.
So when you eat fata, apart from Eid, people say, why you are eating
It's not like you have some certain kind of cheese that you eat on.
Rumi cheese?
Not Rumi cheese, something else.
نشم النسيم.
أيوة.
Sham Nissim? No.
You
You talk about Eid or cheese?
There's a certain type of cheese that they eat that they eat in Shem el Nassim.
No, we don't eat cheese on Sham
It's
Nissim.
it's
We eat salted fish.
salted fish.
in
It's really nice.
Sham Nissim.
فسيخ.
فسيخ.
Ah,
Or
yeah.
ringa.
I tried renga.
This is
Amazing.
What's is it kashari? Is that
Koshari.
This is street food.
Yeah.
Commonly street food. But yeah, you know, people always love street
It's
food.
very
So
healthy,
shawarma
very
is
delicious.
street food.
Yes.
I cannot invite anyone to the house and eat him
And
or
so-
feed him shawarma. They will look at me like, what the hell are you doing? Imagine it.
Just going back to what you were saying about how people have the same ingredients but they cook them in different ways. I was watching a program recently about archaeology, and it was the archaeologist saying that one of the most frustrating things about being an archaeologist is that you know what people ate because you find
Residuals
evidence of
or
it. You find the seeds, or you know what was growing in that soil, but you don't know how they cooked it. You don't know which ingredients they mixed together and what it tasted like.
true.
So you have all this evidence, but the key thing is actually missing. And it's the same with music. They find musical instruments, but they don't know what they sounded like.
True. You know, I can
Yeah.
see the clubs, but I
That's
think
very interesting.
yeah, but I think this is very much Lloyd and Kate's kind of thing, Katie's
Yes.
thing, right? I don't
Yeah.
think like British use clubs often, right? Because this is the case with me. Because I grew up, I mean my family spent some time in the Gulf, so people in the Levant area use more of seasoning herbs.
Yes.
But we have the influence of the Gulf and the Pakistani/Indian in the Gulf. So we use a mix of spices and seasoning.
Right.
So yeah, it's very nice.
It's really interesting how you can see a common ground for all the people when you come to talk about food.
Brings people together.
I mean, I can talk with them about history for hours, but probably these guys will feel so bored. But when it comes to food, you're gonna find everyone is interested to talk about it or have something to say about it.
Sure. It's been an easy way for people to express who they are. I mean, so far, some people came to us with the idea of using herbs instead of,
Right.
and now people are becoming creative about the ways they want to express themselves. I don't want to limit it to food. So food, that was my way, and some other people's way as well. But you know, the 7 billion humans don't have to stick to our way of expressing themselves. So. We're just creating this common ground for people. We're creating the matrix of the experiences where people can just read the guidelines and use the tools that we have developed so far to come up with something that we're not aware of as of now. Because at the end of the day, what we tackle in Zaha is the limited human perception. You know, so I have a limited perception of what people could use as a way to express who they are. So let's see, you know.
So Lloyd, you're interested in history as something personal, or you studied history?
No, just out of I read a lot of history when I was a child. It was really something that interested me. I didn't want to study it actually. I did study history at school, but after that I didn't want to study it anymore. Just this is for something for my personal interest. Not
So this is something you developed when you used to live in prison, or in England, right?
in
England.
England, yeah.
Do you feel like when you read history you get attached to your family? Any kind of history? I mean, because it's something you develop in your home country.
So no, not because I wouldn't just read about what was happening with the UK, anything in the world. So it's like transports me into that world and that period of time to learn about.
But because I also noticed that you have a book about the falconry.
That's Katie's.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I'm interested in the traditions from here, so.
Did you go to the falcon market at Nabi
Yeah,
Sheba?
it's amazing.
Okay, it's really nice.
I love it.
Because I'm interested in history and also in discovering anything new. So like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I went to the falcon market just to go there and see what's going on. And when you see all of these materials they're using for falcon or for going outdoor for safari, it's really fascinating for me because this is something new. And you know nothing about it. And it makes you really interested to read about it and to know more, even if you're not interested in it. So like golf. I'm not interested in golf. Sometimes I go to golf cups or polo cups. even if I don't understand the word, because it's very interesting for me to go there and
observe,
knowing
yeah,
something
and
different.
learn.
For history, I'm really interested also in history. So
Yes.
because the history is a way to understand the culture where
Yeah.
you want to know about it. So when I traveled to London, I lived there. I was keen to visit museum whether in London or whether I went to Scotland, because it's allowed me to understand more about the culture, about the
Yes.
history of the country. So one of the things that how the maritime history and maritime activities was something very important in the British history.
Yes.
Because simply if without the maritime, it's island. So
Yeah,
they are
sure.
isolated from Europe, and they need to trade. They need to supply food because it's in the north. It's always cold. So how was having a very strong navy, and a very strong
Very in function here.
position in the maritime routes was something really crucial for the British foreign policy.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true.
So yeah, I feel home when I was talking about
This is very
Britain.
nice.
For me, it's the opposite. History is like discovering about new places in the world.
Yeah.
History is a way to see outside your own time and your own place,
Yeah.
rather than bringing you back to your own traditions. It's
Yeah.
the other way around.
Yeah.
Because my interest in tourism and travel is the same as my interest in history.
But I also noticed that because libraries, bookstores are everywhere in prison, so it's really common to walk and see a bookstore, and they put and the publishing industry in Britain is so and it's so important industry there. So every day there is something new. So you can walk. It's like it's normal. People reading at the underground, or they go during the weekend to the bookstore to buy a new book. So you're gonna find big books about history or about different cultures, habits, or about
Can I help with something?
Yes.
any activities globally, and it motivates you to travel.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, something.
But isn't it true for the rest of Europe as well?
Something.
Thank you.
What you were saying?
Wouldn't that be true for the rest of Europe as well? The reading habits of the people? You see that on the tram and on the metro.
We're here in Dubai.
No, in the rest of Central Europe,
Central Europe.
Berlin or Amsterdam.
Yeah, I'm talking about my experience about living. I didn't go to Germany, but usually Europe has the highest rates of reading,
Yeah, habits are.
and the biggest publishers in the world is in Europe and North America.
Yeah.
But it's a culture. People are reading. It's really common to go. I mean, this is not something that I used to see in Alexandria. I mean, my friends were doing this, but this is not a really common
Yeah, the
thing.
general trend.
I mean, it was something that common me and my friends in Alexandria that we love
Yeah.
reading. We love going to.
Less people are
literature.
reading nowadays, I would say.
Devices. I don't think we can blame it on devices entirely.
Short
It's
time,
become-
short attention span. Also, people are
Yeah.
suffering from.
Yeah, but in Britain also traveling is something important because it's some kind of tradition to go to the south.
This is the interesting part.
Yes. This the
So this is a very old traditional British dish called Lancashire hot pot.
Okay.
This is one my mother and my grandmother would make quite regularly. It's sorry, what's the name? So you have layers of potatoes with lamb and onions. It dates back to like the 18th century, and the oysters were very cheap then, so they used to add oysters. It's a bit strange, so people don't add oysters anymore, but you can add some vegetables into it. So I put some carrots into this as well to make it give it a bit more vegetables in there. and some thyme as well. So to give it a bit of seasoning.
Zaha time. Deepen the pot.
Yeah, it's like za'atar without the sesame seeds.
And the lamb, do you season marinate it in a specific sauce or it's mostly raw?
With gravy. Thank you.
So this is
Lancashire hot pot.
And the gravy you
I
said
do it in the oven.
baked it?
Yeah, baked in.
In the oven.
Sorry, Asman is the
And this is lamb.
lamb. Yeah.
And the curry that you mentioned for the lamb,
The what? Sorry.
the sort of the curry sauce that you added for the lamb, that's with the thyme. That's with za'atar.
No, the thyme I added separately.
Yeah.
So thyme, salt and
Thank
pepper,
Right.
and
And
carrots.
Carrots.
yeah, sometimes you can add
Interesting. And this is something common in like different parts of the UK? or
Yeah,
where
across
you
the
grew up?
UK.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was invented in Lancashire,
Mhm.
but it's something that would be.
Thank you. It smells really nice. And some rosemary? Is there some rosemary?
No, just thyme. Nothing.
Just thyme,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's quite a plain dish, I guess, in
Okay.
one sense, but that's why quite often people would have mustard with it as well.
Oh.
So I put on English and French mustard.
Okay. So we eat it with the mustard.
Yeah, with the mustard.
But if I would ask you, like, what makes it very different than other plates, what would you say?
It's a good question. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the answer is.
Maybe
I think it's the layering of things, and it was designed to be a very simple dish that people could make quickly and
Okay.
easily.
Interesting.
Nice.
Katie, we're waiting for you.
There's salt and pepper on the table if you want to season, add some more seasoning.
I don't want to surprise you, but my mother is cooking the same hot pot in my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I ask you because we
Yeah.
have a very very similar.
Luba?
You put za'atar?
I wouldn't say مقلوبة. It's like
No, not مقلوبة.
صينية
Yeah,
خضار
صينية
مثلاً.
yeah. Like in Paris, I mean, there must be either bread or rice in any meal,
Yes.
especially when it comes to lunch. So you either have the rice and the
Yes.
cooked chicken or meat with vegetables and the soup, or
Yeah.
we put it in in the oven tray and we mix the stuff and we put them in the oven.
Yes.
So he's referring to, we call it saniya, sawani.
Right. Saniya, oh.
Yeah, so it's a very traditional thing. So you either have rice
Yeah.
or the sawani, where you eat it with bread.
Yes.
In Egypt we have
Same for
the
us.
sanaya, but the common one is the one with the tomato sauce. In my house we do two different ways, either tomato sauce or this way.
Yeah.
We don't put the za'atar, but we put the salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah,
we
in
put
Egypt they don't use that.
Yeah, sometimes we put the carrots. For beef, usually because the habits in Alexandria we don't use lamb. Lamb is common in Cairo.
Yeah.
We prefer beef, cow beef. But we don't put too much beef. It's like some pieces just. We have an expression
To
called,
give that flavor.
give the flavor. We put lamb, but usually if Eid time, it's the season for eating lamb. So we can put the lamb. But we have an expression when we cook vegetables and we don't put beef or lamb. We say ordehi.
Which means
Ordehi
خضار
means
only.
doesn't have beef. So if my mother cooked the potato,
vegan.
I asked her ordehi. She say no, we have beef in it.
Okay.
Same for the vegetables. If she could any vegetables, it's not we or they it's not, no,
Okay.
it's
Is
not
it-
okay.
Is it considered a lesser meal if it doesn't have?
No, it's just we don't have
Another
beef.
way.
We don't have beef.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
it has to do with the Egyptian
Right.
culture in dealing with the beef and lamb.
Yeah.
Because
But what
usually Egyptians in
What have we got?
sorry.
Don't worry. I have a question for Luke when you finish.
Because usually Egyptian cuisine is mostly vegetarian ingredients. So
But you guys eat a lot of beef meat.
a lot of
Beef.
yeah. This is the point. When we eat beef, we eat a lot, which is unhealthy.
In Egypt, so that's a
Which
Yeah,
is
a lot.
unhealthy. They like that the
I feel like you
restaurant.
eat more fish.
Sorry,
I feel like you eat more fish.
The fish is
Fish,
great
fish.
too, right?
fish.
Yes.
Fish must be fresh.
Yeah. This is
You
why.
cannot eat like a fish like
Frozen.
frozen.
Like I've been to the.
And we can know that from the eyes.
The eyes of the fish.
That's a standard thing, right? Everybody.
But we don't use
uses that.
mustard with it. This is a pure British thing.
Exactly.
I think it's Ibn Hamidu that does the Egyptian seafood.
There are other
Other one.
seafood restaurants in Sharjah and Ajman. There are some other new restaurants here in Dubai. I'm trying to arrange a gathering with my friends, so we are checking the restaurants now in Dubai.
Right.
Yeah, but the za'atar is giving a very amazing taste for Dubai.
But this is not. You're saying it's plain. It's not plain. I mean, it has very rich flavor.
I think
Even without the mustard.
yeah.
The za'atar it makes it very rich.
No, no.
Yes.
Maybe they're comparing it with another
This
dishes.
is your thoughts,
maybe.
right?
That's
The
what-
za'atar?
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I think compared to some other cultures, British food can taste quite plain if you're used to very
Yeah.
spicy food because we don't have really spice at all.
But it's
So
interesting.
we're always worried that people
You
think our
assume,
food is
yeah, that's my point. That
Yeah.
you guys assume.
but actually it's not.
Maybe
Just put
comparing to the Indian food, maybe, which is very
It's really
spicy
good
or anything.
for a change, you know, like you feel the raw ingredients more rather than just the spices.
Yeah, I
So
mean.
usually
yeah.
how much the za'atar you put in the hot pot?
Not very much. Like a spring thing.
Okay.
There may be one.
I think the za'atar already has a very strong taste.
Yeah, it is.
When it's fresh, maybe.
Even when sun dried, believe me.
For example, my mother
That's
cooks.
wild.
From my mother makes starter at home, so she brings it from the mountain. Then she dries it at home. She leaves it like for a week or 2 weeks until it gets very dry. Then she mixes it with salt and sumac.
It's like the mint. You eat mint or you taste mint when it's fresh. So za'atar is the same. It's better to be fresh.
Sometimes, if you don't do it the same way he just explained, my mom would do the same. Give the wild za'atar, grinds it, and then adds the organic sumac, and when everything's organic and fresh, the taste is different. It's stronger. Like sometimes my friends try the za'atar that my mom makes, that you can't have much of it because it's strong. But if you buy it from a store, store is different because the way they grind it, sometimes they mix it with other stuff, so it weighs more. So not necessarily all of it is the real za'atar, the real time,
This is piece of the liver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's different.
Oh, okay, interesting, because you...
Yeah, we are common in Egypt and Alexandria. We have a whole dish for the liver. It's like
But it's interesting that you mixed both the
Yeah,
liver...
the recipe has a mix of.
is that normal?
Yeah, that's-
like
this is
mixing the
recipe.
liver or
We
the.
don't
In this-
usually mix it.
In
I know in
Yeah.
Scotland there is
It's
something
either
like
this or
that.
that.
Haggis, yeah. They have a haggis in Scotland, like a
Ah.
plate. It's like
زي المصارين والملاعق.
masarin. Yeah.
The intestines. I think you have the same in Pakistan.
There's a dish called katakat, where you put in all these liver and different stuff, and then you
Internal
really put them
organs.
together. Yeah. You also like the
The head?
brain. The brain.
No,
yeah.
the brain. There is a dish in Palestine.
The brain is really, really,
nutrients.
it's really good. No, it's really good taste when it's
Yeah.
when
They
it's
make it
cooked in the
paneer.
oven.
Yeah. Yeah.
They make it paneer. They make it very like they serve it in the fancy restaurants in
Yeah, it's
Palestine.
because it's
Yeah.
very
It's expensive.
yeah, it is.
Especially the way they cook it is like it makes it on a big pan and put it all in oil and water and just cook it
Yeah.
for a long time just so that all the germs.
Because
and
it
everything
has
is-
fat.
Yeah, it's very high in cholesterol.
So when you have it with some, they make capers and some kind of soury toast, sauce next to it. So it's so delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. That's really nice.
That's really nice.
It's, yeah, I hope you liked it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very nice. Just because of the flu, I can't eat much.
Have a flu?
Yeah, it's been 3 days. It's killing me.
Did you what medicine you take?
I do take medicines.
Why?
No, بحب. I don't like.
Listen,
So I've been just having ginger, honey,
They really have.
and
Yeah.
vitamin C, and
Try to have cumin.
cumin.
Chamomile.
لا كمون, just cumin.
Is that why you're not taking
I read
medicine?
about
You
it.
prefer something natural?
Yeah.
I read the whole article about cumin.
And by the way, sorry for the interruption, but I tend to fall sick when I'm not feeling my best.
Emotionally.
Subhanallah, yeah. So last week I had a call to converse with the organization that said no to the 45th grant application I applied. So I still chose to show up and talk to them. And the lady was like, you're such a source of inspiration, you've been working really hard. After I told her what we've been doing, the moment she acknowledged that, for some reason I broke down. You know, like for someone to see you see this,
Yeah.
you see it takes lots of courage to do what I'm doing. And like at the very early stage, it was like you have no idea what I've gone through to be able to conduct the 30 experiences. Sometimes I would be like in the metro running with stuff, going to my store, conducting an experience myself. Because I see the value of it. So
Wanna taste it?
and we always say like the experiences are testing field for us to challenge the narratives and like deconstruct and then reconstruct the narratives about who we are, about the other. So for some reason I felt like okay, I knew that I'm going to fall sick. So subhanallah, it has something to do with this.
It's connected with the spiritual system.
The immune system definitely gets impacted by your state of mind and how you feel. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
It's also I don't know, for me, I feel like it's also the air quality, especially with the air conditioning and everything. You gotta
And
get
then what
it.
to do with it?
Changing weathers,
Yeah.
you don't have an option.
But I'm gonna put an air purifier, I think.
Thank you.
No worries, no, please.
We're preparing the next and final course.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's really nice.
Just kind of finish it.
So now I discovered that Senate potatoes is actually Lankish.
Yeah, has a fancy name now. We can.
It looks very similar to.
Yeah, صينية بطاطا, yeah. صينية. We're referring to this oven tray thing.
So I was talking about the commune. Commune, what did you say?
كمون اللي بتحكي.
Yes. So it's one of the strongest natural antibiotic. That's why the
So you
reason.
just boil
That's-
water, you add to it cumin وبتغطي عليه.
Yes,
Then you
just one
drink
spoon.
it. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow.
Done it when I was in Jordan.
Zanjabil.
It was very.
I've been
cold.
having zanjabil a lot.
Zanjabil. Zanjabil is
Yeah.
good. Lemon is good.
I
The
think
commune is really
cinnamon is also good.
cinnamon is good.
You
They
mix
said the commune is very common in your.
Commune, yeah, like CUMIN.
Yeah.
So you add it to most of the dishes. That's what I heard.
There's the yellow one, right?
Yes.
هلا
The
Yeah.
brownish. The
cumin
orange.
is different than turmeric.
Yeah, because turmeric is also good.
Turmeric is amazing. It's
Yeah.
antioxidant.
Exactly.
You know what's interesting? We did the same experience but with herbs. So
Right.
people would express themselves by sharing stories about herbs.
Amazing.
And the useful tips
Yeah.
I got exposed to in one experience.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I didn't know that they use. There is a very common alcohol drink in the Levant area called العرق.
Yeah.
It's
very
basically
strong,
made
yeah.
out of aniside, you know. So
Do you know any store selling العراقير?
sorry.
Do you know any store selling العراقير anyway?
Yeah,
I have no
I'm
idea.
sure.
Yeah, the Lebanese places must.
Yeah, because it's all around Mediterranean they have
Yeah.
Arab. Even in
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Georgia.
talking about UAE. Do you know any store?
Duty free for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to the duty.
So there was a lady from Austria. She told us that her grandma would use it to soothe the babies when they cry a lot, they can't fall asleep.
Whoa, wow.
She would rub them
Oh,
with
rub
it.
them.
I was like, wow,
They
you would
get
never
used to the
think
smell.
of it.
We do the same, but
This
with
is what
olive
is-
oil.
This is what is good about knowing other culture, you know? You would never think about it, but a lady from Austria did it.
Yeah, but this is the beauty of. Listen, when you watch this experience, you've been to it. You would, when you watch it, you'll observe that you're hearing new stuff when you watch it on your own.
What did you do the experience that I went in December? Did you edit the video or was it
Yeah,
working?
but he's working on the content.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. The one with Lily.
Yeah.
We're preparing a program for Ramadan. We called it Zaha Experiencing the Soul of Dubai.
Wow.
Where the experienced leaders are sharing their interpretation of Ramadan. Some of them are non-Muslims, but they would share their understanding of Ramadan. And there's a Tunisian experienced leader who would share with us, his personal culture, his own interpretation of Ramadan. And as part of it, he might be doing the salah for people, because if we have non-Muslims, just to get to know the meaning of it for this guy who's the experienced leader. I'm going to make iftar and suhoor again. There's lots of stories about what does it mean for me and how I experienced Ramadan in a village and how it was different in the city in Palestine. And
Was there a big difference living the Ramadan in a village and in a city?
yeah, of course. So it's interesting. So hopefully we'll be able to do the series. Lloyd is actually arranging one of the experiences.
I have a question. You have in the Levant and Palestine the tradition of the cannon during Ramadan, right?
Yes.
What's canon?
The مدفع Ramadan.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So is it common? I mean,
It depends on the area. So we still have it. For example, in Jordan also we still have it, but not all of the areas. So they.
yeah, but you have the tradition. I mean, you open the TV waiting for the cannon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know it's in Lebanon. I don't know if it's in Syria or not.
No, it's common in Levant. Yes, in the other area.
Because when they brought it here in Dubai, I was like, isn't Egyptian tradition?
But in Egypt, like you have a lot of traditions when it comes to Ramadan.
Yeah.
The lights and the.
Big time.
It's Ramadan is like
whole new
actually
season.
it's a tradition that used to be all
So this is
the
a
whole
dessert.
Yes.
Okay.
during all the year, but for some reason it's became attached to Ramadan. So for example, we always like to eat Oriental sweet in Ramadan, kunhafa ataif.
Yes.
During the whole year we don't eat it.
Ataif,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
ataif.
Yeah.
or thank you.
So much.
Like صوابع زينب. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, he makes all that. The last year.
بسبوسة. قطايف والنقطة.
It smells very good.
Yeah.
Is it?
He
It's
baked
like,
it.
It's like banana spinach.
I think
Is it banana?
So,
I think
Custard.
Custard
Oh,
would
I know
be-
this is custard, but inside is it a pie or? I mean, you don't tell us.
Yeah.
So this is a very traditional sort of easy British pudding that we have. So it's called a jam roly-poly and custard. So strawberry jam in pastry, and then just served with custard. So very simple. Very
I think Rachel in Friends was also making the same. And she messes up the recipe, but not you.
Because I smell this is cinnamon. Oh.
No.
Nothing.
No, nothing. Just jam.
Oh, so this is strawberry jam? Or?
Yeah,
or-
strawberry jam.
Yeah, this is strawberry jam and custard.
So there's more custard if anybody wants more. This is what we call school dinners because it's the kind of food that they would cook at school.
This is the one they were doing in the school, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
School would be like the very traditional, very easy dishes.
Yeah.
So this you can make it a lot of it in advance, and then you just dish it out one after the other.
I think a few years ago or 2 years ago there was a problem about it because they wanted not to serve it in the schools, something like
Oh
that.
yeah, because it's not healthy anymore.
Yeah.
They have to only have fruit now.
Yeah.
This one has too much sugar.
The opposite to what's happening in the States, where Trump took the decision to change all the meals. That
Serve
they
them
serve
burgers?
Yeah.
Because
replace
he
them
likes
with-
burgers?
Yeah, replace them with burgers and pizza.
Oh no.
In the schools.
Yeah,
Wow.
he did.
Okay.
And he has the power.
Yeah, he can
When you
change.
Yeah,
think-
so the economy can go on.
And he literally mentioned that.
Pizza Hut and
Those
McDonald's
items.
will work. This is business for them.
But I mean, millions of mature people have actually elected this man. So it's kind of crazy when you think of it.
Okay, we don't talk in politics here.
We don't.
Remember the rule.
But I mean, you were talking about
An individual person.
no, like yeah.
But let's talk about another thing. McDonald's is not a healthy food at all, and it's not tasty. But people admire it, and they don't eat this, although it's amazing.
They have apple pie.
Actually,
Not the same.
depends on- no,
Not the same.
So,
I think that things go out of fashion. So it's even though something can be good and it's tasty, it's like it's old fashioned. So the old people used to eat this.
for example, the dish that she mentioned, which is like the main dessert in our region, which is kunafa. So it became out of fashion. So for some people, when they go out, they'd rather have cinnamon or like a crepe or those things like
Yes.
waffle crepe, these things. But when you say kunafa, it becomes like the old traditional dish that we have.
Yes.
I think people now are more in kunafa nabits than before. I mean, it became a brand in itself when you go out and you go to any Oriental.
To non,
People ask me the kunafa nabits.
you know, to
I mean,
non
we have
even
kunafa.
kind people.
We have a kunafa in Egypt, but it's not the kunafa nabits. We don't put cheese. We are more in nuts or
You don't-
custard.
Yeah.
You don't put cheese inside it.
Or
No, we don't
cream.
put cheese.
قشطة بياخدوا.
Cream. Sometimes we do custards. Recently we put Nutella. Imagine it.
It's funny, huh?
That's in Kanapa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So from inside instead of the cheese we put Nutella or custard or
People start.
red velvet.
Yeah. So
This is
when
another one from
when it comes to
or mango.
to elder
Did you
people,
try the kunafa with mango?
It's blasphemous.
yeah, they get very angry.
I mean,
they get
Nutella-
very upset, very angry when
Yeah.
they see us like treating this very traditional dish this
Gracious,
way. What are you
Yeah.
doing to the traditional dish? What are you adding to it? It can't be this way.
Yeah. And people add Nutella to strange
Yeah.
things.
The custard.
The custard.
Yeah.
Nutella pizza I saw somewhere. Horrific. Who would want to have
water?
But is custard common in this part of the world, in the Middle East and the Mediterranean?
It,
They have
In the
Ali.
households? So not
They
Custard
have
is-
Ali.
It's
the
Egyptian.
yeah.
separate version.
But that's a dessert which we have something similar called bread and butter pudding.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
we
the one
call
that
it-
we
yeah.
used to make if you have bread which is quite old and you don't want to eat it, you can make bread and butter.
No, we
pudding.
have a bread pudding. So it's
Okay.
like milk.
Yeah.
We put the bread
Yeah.
and we heat it and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we have
And
the
it's
same.
the
Preserve
chocolate
it
that we
French
far away
toast.
from
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Sorry?
Thank
just
you.
like the French toast.
Yeah.
Not really, like
Mm.
pita bread.
Puffy
No, we
one.
put pita
Ah.
bread. We just put pita bread and
Oh, okay.
lots of milk, and we heat it and that's it. Fatted lemon. We call it like milk fatted lemon, and
Yeah.
it's really common during the winter. Couscous. In Alexandria, it's apart from Egypt. Alexandria is famous with the sweet couscous.
Couscous, like the
Sweet
Moroccan.
couscous. Sweet couscous.
The Moroccan one.
Sweet
Sim-
couscous.
Sweet. No, Morocco
different.
ate it the couscous
for main course.
as a main course,
Right.
and they put vegetables and lamb. But we eat it as a sweet in
Right.
Alexandria. So we put nuts,
Sugar.
sugar, milk,
Mm.
and it's common in winter.
Mm.
What
Yeah,
else?
it's the same in Palestine.
But we have something like a street food sweet. What do we call it? Halabissa? No, not halabissa. It's halabissa is something else. What is it? I forget its name.
Halbin?
لا, something you I don't remember. It's like a sandwich, and we put halawa and cream and strawberry
Wow.
and halawa, cream, strawberry.
It should be very heavy.
Yeah,
And honey and black honey. Yeah, and we eat it in the winter.
You know, all the Arab words, in Arabic we say, like we have two different words for yogurt and milk.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They're the complete opposite in Egypt.
Oh.
So for milk, we say halib.
Yes.
We also
don't say
No,
halib.
halib. For yogurt, we say laban.
Yeah.
They say laban for milk. This I
And
don't
we
understand.
say zabadi on the yogurt, you know.
Yeah, but why do you say like
Somebody
it's so-
miscommunicated
we
back in
just-
the day.
We're just born and we
It's very
find it like
confusing. It's very confusing if you're not very.
it's very confusing for you, but not for us.
Yeah, it should be like yeah, it should,
confusing
you should
for
feel
the
the same.
people. It's like when I went to a bakery in Sharjah, and the bakery is running by Egyptians, and they were selling kahk al-Eid. So during the Eid after Ramadan, there is some kind of
Pastries, yeah.
pastries. It's
Cookies,
traditional
actually,
Egyptian
yeah.
traditional.
Yes.
one.
So you only cook them in Eid in this.
Yes.
Yeah,
period
so
of
we
time.
call it kahk, and there was this Lebanese woman, and she said, it's not kahk, it's kak.
I was about
no,
to say the
it's
same. I
kahk.
thought you.
We say it like this since the pharaohs. This is the name since the pharaohs.
There's some confusions between British English and American English.
Yeah,
For sure.
Pants and trousers.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Soccer and football. Always.
That's the end of the.
Mm.
Will I let you to finish?
That was really interesting.
The reason I asked was it looks like we
So do
inherited
you usually cook
the custard
this, or
from the British.
only and
because we also make
not
a
anymore.
version of custard.
It's very very
at home
delicious.
now.
It's like
In
why
Pakistan.
it's not like
Yes.
why it
So
doesn't exist here in Dubai like somewhere to
Yeah.
go and just
no.
order
It can't
it.
be an
It's
original
the
thing.
kind of thing
Definitely
you would never even
inherited.
find it in a restaurant. It's so
Wow.
old and out of fashion.
Wow,
And even the main course you wouldn't eat in a restaurant.
people
The
replace
puppet
it with
shrimps you
music.
find in
In a
restaurants.
pub, maybe.
What do you think hot pot
In
you
the
could find
pub.
in a pub?
Yeah.
But why do you think the reason is
I
like?
think it costs 50 dirham.
I mean, yeah, wow. Like, why do you think the reason behind like not having these anymore in the
I think
stores?
they're
now?
just not fashionable.
Yeah, it just went out of fashion because as we got more exposed to
The world.
the world and other foods just became more popular and people like to have a bit more spice and.
Mhm. So it's not about the cost or the.
No. I think, people just got bored of all the old things and they want to try new things.
I mean,
But now it seems a bit exotic. So in the butchers, I have different cuts of meat, which my grandparents would know, but everyone was having steak, fillets, ribeye. But now they have different cuts of beef or lamb that from like 100 years ago, because that's become fashionable because people don't.
Don't
It's
know.
unusual now. It's
Yeah.
exotic.
yeah, because the food tradition habits changing by the time. Because, for example, during the World War II, there was it was the war and it was very difficult time to access beef and lamb in prison. And at that time, someone told me that this is the only occasion that makes the British eat rabbits in some places.
No, some
Although
people-
rabbit is a common dish in Egypt, and I was in a train. I saw some rabbits. I was like, "Wow, this rabbit is amazing, but why is it so fat?" And the guy saying, "Because no one eats it." I was like, "You don't eat rabbits?" I
We
was
do
like,
sometimes. You
I was,
sometimes
he
see it on
said
the
yes,
menu.
and I was like, "Why?" He said, "It's too cute to eat it."
You can say the same on a nice goat and a nice
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
It could apply to any
Exactly.
animal that we would eat.
So yeah, sometimes people like get surprised when they come to Egypt and discover that we eat rabbits and pigeons
Stuff with the
and
thing.
everything in the cow. Like, who are you? Why are you doing this? I was like,
Actually, yeah, I can't find like a justification why people feel very sad when we, for example, kill a dog to eat it. For
Yes.
example, but they don't have the same feelings when it comes to a cow or a chicken.
Yeah.
I can't.
I know it doesn't logically. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but it's what you grew up
Exactly.
knowing and doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
if you had a dog as a pet and they lived in your house, you played with them.
Yeah, the meaning of having a dog
Yeah.
is different to you than me, i.e., you
Yeah.
know, because you used to have
Exactly, you would
one.
Some
Which
people would have
felt
like
maybe as a
chicken.
family
Some
member.
people would have.
So I think this is the thing that we were talking about. He's doing this food also. It's not fashionable anymore, and it's a way of keep his attached to his roots and his family. But it's not only this. He's fighting the changes that brought by time, because these things by time it disappeared. It disappeared by the power of the changes in the society or the fashion trends or the laws, because they want to serve it anymore in the school. So by keeping doing this in his home, this is his, what I think is his safe place where he can revive and keep his attached to his families and his roots and tell me if I'm saying anything
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I think it's true.
quite a good
Yeah,
analysis.
it's very good analysis.
gives a higher
You understood
purpose.
him better.
It's always a fight just to live up to your truth. I mean, it's always there. So thank you so much, guys, for the interesting experience.
coming.
Thank you for
Thank
opening
you
up
for
and sharing
having
who you
us.
are. We'll just have a group picture now.
Okay.
Yes.
For those who have been to the experience, always, just follow us on Instagram, stay updated, stay close, refer other people who are interesting to, get
Yeah.
exposed to other,
course.
to how people think, and they want to share who they are also. And we'll keep you posted on our progress. We do this regularly, so it's been a joy to have shared this with you tonight. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you
and
so much,
Lauren.
guys.
It's been
Thank you
really
for having
a pleasure. Thank you so much. And you guys can play on the way out. There's
Yeah.
a small dish, okay? Thank you.